southern Utah. A study conducted by health and fitness experts at Total Shape reveals the most popular fruit and vegetables across each U.S. state. The experts used the top 20 most popular fruits and the 20 most popular vegetables in the U.S. and used Google search data to examine the search volumes of fruit and vegetables across each state. The fruits and veggies receiving the most monthly searches in Utah were apples as the most popular, averaging 46,433 monthly searches. Mushrooms ranked second place with an average of 4,650 monthly searches. Mangoes came in third, 4,517 average monthly searches. A spokesperson from Total Shape commented on the research, explaining that there are more than 700 varieties of apples in the world and more than 100 types of apples exist in the U.S. alone, so it's no surprise that apples are the most popular fruit. Pursuing a healthy lifestyle is a hot topic across the U.S. Research shows around half of Americans are healthy eaters, according to their own testimonies. However, there are common barriers which make healthy eating difficult. 46% of U.S. adults declare healthy eating is too expensive. 23% say they have too little time to cook and prepare food, while 20% have a lack of knowledge around healthy diets. One person died after a stabbing in Salt Lake City. Officials with the Salt Lake City Police Department said the incident happened behind South Redwood Road at around 6 p.m. Authorities responded to the scene where they found one individual who suffered from a stab wound. The victim was transported to a nearby hospital in critical condition, where he later died at the hospital. KBNU News Time, 4:07.
My hearing started to go right around the same time my wife started naming off all the upgrades she wanted done on the house. I figured it was selective hearing. To be honest, I was actually pretty upset when it was suggested that I might need hearing aids, but ultimately I knew it was time for a change.
At Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology, we can help you regain the confidence that you're hearing life the way it was meant to be heard.
Bring back what you've been missing. Bring back Cache Valley Hearing and Audiology.
Visit CacheHearing.com for details.
KBNU weather for tonight, mostly cloudy, slight chance of showers and thunderstorms this evening, then partly cloudy after midnight. Low in the upper 40s. Sunny to partly cloudy Saturday, slight chance of showers and storms in the afternoon, mid-70s for the high. And a 30% chance of showers on Sunday, otherwise partly cloudy skies and mid-70s. We've stayed in the 60s so far today. It's been to 68. It's 65 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Roof Rescue. At Roof Rescue, their licensed and insured professionals use state-of-the-art technologies and products for all their repair and installation projects. Call 435-999-4268. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
News Talk KVNU, 610 AM at 102.1 FM.
Back in Logan for one night only. Gary Morris. Gary Morris live at the Danes Concert Hall on the USU campus. Gary Morris, June 10th with special guest Hearts of Steel. Get your tickets now at the USU ticket office or at Ruby's Restaurant in Logan. Gary Morris, live June 10th at the USU Danes Concert Hall.
Napa!
When you buy Napa Auto Parts, you're getting the best. Pull into any one of the 5 locally owned Preston to Providence Napa Auto Parts stores. They'll not only make sure you get the right battery or wiper blades, but they'll even help you install it. And if you need other work done, they can recommend a dozen Napa Auto Care Centers with ASE certified technicians. That's Napa know-how.
My simple solution to the problem was remove people from the scene and help them feel safer.
In response to attacks against Asian Americans, Maddie Park raised over $250,000 to donate cab rides to the Asian community.
There is so much more work to be done. We really need to come together and tackle this issue as a community.
Support the Asian community. Learn how at lovehasnolabels.com. Brought to you by Love Has No Labels and the Ad Council.
I've got a math question for you. When you add tolerance, subtract prejudice, and multiply efforts to treat one another with respect, what do you get? Less division. And school sports have it down to a science. Looking for an example of what can happen when we realize there's more that unites us than divides us? Look no further than high school sports in Utah.
This message presented by the Utah High School Activities Association and the Utah Interscholastic Athletic Administrators Association.
Welcome back to the For the People Movie Show with Andy Morgan joining us here in the studio. Talking about a lot of different things, but 80s themed segment here. I'm excited you wanted to talk about this today. As I mentioned,
I have the best list.
You have the best?
It's the best list, Jason.
Now, you're doing forgotten 80s movies, not just your favorites. Listeners, you're happy to supply your favorites, but
we don't want to know that.
But we also want to hear if you have a forgotten one. So I can only think of one, and I don't know if it qualifies.
My wife lives in the 80s still, right? I'm a middle kid. I spent, the bulk of my teenagehood was spent in the 80s, like middle school and the first 2 years of high school. But I'm kind of I feel like I'm in the middle.
In-betweener?
Yeah, because, I was still in high school when, Boys to Men and stuff like that started to, rap was really being, coming on. And so there's stuff
I think that's why I always felt outside of the generation I'm supposed to be a part of.
Of the 80s?
I'm supposed to be the very, very tail end of Gen Z, but I didn't get Gen Z. I didn't get Singles or Clerks. They weren't bad, but I didn't get... Everyone's like, wow, this is so amazing. And I'm like, is it?
That's mid-90s
really?
Stuff, right?
And then Kurt Cobain is so down. Is he?
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Is he really? He's not... He's not bad.
Weirdly,
but is he... He's like the 90s John Lennon. Is he? I spent the 90s going, is he? Is it?
I was
really?
I was a toddler in the 70s. Yeah, pretty much. And I think I identify with yacht rock more than I do
Chris Columbus. And
let's be honest. And I think every single person, if they're
between the world and New York
that's right.
City.
I think most people, if they're honest, would say. So when I first was in elementary school, 6th grade was in elementary school, and then by the time I got to the 5th grade, they'd moved 6th grade into middle school. So it was 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I'm just telling you right now, I don't pay attention anymore, so I don't know where it's at. But I will tell you right now, 6th grade of all of my years of schooling was my least favorite year of school ever in my entire life. Period.
6th grade?
6th grade was so terrible. And so I you know what I do, Jason? And I don't know if other people do this or if you do this. I attach emotional resonance to pop culture, to years or times that I didn't really care for.
I have songs that I can recognize are good, but I don't enjoy hearing them because it reminds me of a thing or a time.
So anytime I hear Screedy Politi or the Thompson Twins or Howard Jones or, Mike and the Mechanics, any of that garbage, I just think of 6th grade, and I'm
Karate Kid soundtrack. You can't listen to the Karate Kid soundtrack.
Everything that could be wrong happened to me. I got the crap bullied out of me. My dad thought it would be a good idea to, in the years of, Opie and Gotcha, he was like, why not wear some flood cords and a Izod shirt buttoned to the top with your greaser hair and penny loafers?
That was...
you know what I mean? So I was literally the poster child for being a nerd. And then here's the other thing. I had a best friend through all of elementary school. Literally a month before 6th grade starts, he was like, well, I guess we're moving. And I was
sad.
I was like, this is just like the movies. I'm so sad. So anyhow, but one thing that's always sustained me is movies. And I was thinking about this as I was creating this list because I'll be honest with you, one movie prompted this whole thing.
Howard the Duck?
No.
It's my first guess.
No, that doesn't even.
That's only on my mind because I finally saw Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Did you cry?
Do they have to throw
Howard
those references in? I don't know. Anyway.
I am not the bad dog. Not the bad dog.
It was.
Take it back.
Yeah, that was actually. It was difficult in scenes.
Don't you think there should have? I don't want to criticize, but don't you think there should have been a warning? Like, there's people like we know some people. You and I know some people.
The otter's eyes are very sad.
You and I know some people.
You will not be prepared for
not
this.
even that. That opening scene where there's a whole litter of
baby raccoons,
and they're all cowering. And then I'm sorry, but like you take your kid to that, the otter comes in and you go, oh, okay, that's disturbing. And then they're like, oh, it's Teefs, and you're like, well, that's added disturbing.
It's really disturbing.
And then the bunny comes out. Floor, and you're like, well, that's horrible.
Yeah,
that's nightmare fuel.
Well, and the close-ups on the bunny's bloodshot eyes, and it
doesn't have a mouth. There's like a little metal plate.
Really, and it has 8 legs.
Oh, it's horrible.
Yeah, it's just
there should be a disclaimer.
It is kind of horror movie-ish. But it's kind of along the lines of that spider doll head thing in Toy Story too. So kids can probably handle it. But yeah, it's a little dark.
James Gunn loves gooey stuff.
Great movie though, by the way. Like
is.
Perfect ending to the franchise, or to the. As I understand it, Star-Lord's going to show up in future Marvel movies, but the whole crew, Guardians of the Galaxy thing is.
Yeah. And I mean, who knows,
gone at this
right?
point. Yeah.
I mean, I everything in franchise movies I always compare to. There are very few actors.
I just want to point out I got us on this tangent by Howard the Duck.
You did.
Sorry about that.
No, it's actually it'll play
anyway,
really well.
Back to your list. You said this started because of one movie.
Well, hang on one second. Let me add one more comment to your thing there. I was going to say there are very few actors who can step away from a franchise and do other things and not feel obligated to go back.
Yeah.
Almost always everybody comes back. It's just,
one thing
cha-ching
that I was really paying attention to because of your comment on this when you actually reviewed Guardians of the Galaxy 3. So I was watching for this, and I hope that they don't kill off Nebula, because Karen Gillan,
she's great.
Is it Gillan or Gillian?
Gillan.
Gillan. She really is a good actress.
Yeah, she is. Have you seen?
You can't tell because she's.
Have you seen Gunpowder
Nebula,
Milkshake?
But yeah, that's she's amazing. She's funny.
That's a good show.
Even though she's not, I don't think she even cracks a smile in that entire thing, does she?
It's almost like Nebula without any makeup.
Yeah. But what she does is hilarious, and she does it so believably. See that movie if you haven't. But
Netflix.
She's really good. And then I also went. So I hadn't finished the Christmas special till after I saw the third movie, and so I went and finished that. And
then you referenced the "You're My Sister" thing.
Yeah, it explains some things, but I already knew that.
Mantis is funny.
Mantis is hilarious, but she's also a great actress in the Christmas special. Anyway. So
I mean,
completely
even
derailed
Dave
your 80s
Bautista
thing. I feel really bad.
Is good too.
Yeah,
he's There's this is a very. I mean, the movies have. There's always some sentimentality in the Guardians movies, but the sentimentality has increased with each movie, and it is on full force in the third movie.
Yeah, it's really, really obvious they're saying goodbye.
And it also comes to. It circles back that everyone probably thinks that these are movies about Star-Lord, and they're not. James,
he's actually incidental.
James Gunn said
this third one.
The whole Guardians of the Galaxy series is about Rocket.
Yeah,
it's always been Rocket's story, I think, is what he said.
Yeah, I felt like it was primarily Rocket, but it was also everyone but Star-Lord's story too, because they flush out some other things with each character. Star-Lord got his movie in the second one.
Oh, and his whole thing with just like having FOMO with Gamora is so funny.
Yeah, my best friend,
the one when they're
died and then came back.
Yeah, in the elevator
as a bleep,
and Nebula's like
so funny.
Nebula's like, well, you left out some parts, but that's pretty much accurate.
Yeah.
So good.
Left out some key details.
But that's pretty much the gist of it. Okay.
So the one movie that started your 8 forgotten 80s movies list.
So how this happened is just crazy.
Is it a movie you saw or
no?
just
So
thought of?
So sometimes at night, one of the things I do to relax.
Every time someone says that, all I can think about is Jack Black in Nacho Libre movie.
Sometimes at night.
Sometimes at night, when you're a grown man, you wear stretchy pants. Sorry, anyway.
No, you're fine. What I was going to say was, so during like Utah Jazz season, I usually stay up watching all the basketball highlights.
Those late ones.
And then I play. I do enjoy a good game of Call of Duty and other games, but if I'm not if I'm not feeling it, what I do is I usually will just. I obviously have a million different streaming services, but I'll just see what movies are playing, like on TBS or Sci-Fi or FX or whatever.
That's fun sometimes.
Yeah, just to see what's in the rotation. So
yeah,
I clicked on Weekend at Bernie's. And
man!
And then now, hang on,
I haven't seen that since I was a kid.
This movie did not. This is not what happened.
That's not the movie. Okay.
It sort of. So when I clicked on Weekend at Bernie's, I was like, oh, I forgot how funny this movie is,
Yeah.
right?
I remember it being hilarious.
And one thing that I
was young.
One thing I get really, what I really enjoy is looking and saying, okay, who's this actor? What else have they been in? So when I was watching this scene with Bernie, it was this Terry Kaiser, and I was like, God, he looks so familiar. Has he been anything else? So I started going down this rabbit hole. No, he hasn't. And then when I looked back up, it was at the scene in the apartment. Remember where, what's the actor's name? Why can't I remember? Jonathan Silverman he's got a date, and remember he tells her his dad is his butler.
Yeah,
and the dad's like, "What?" The dad's in like a tank top and boxer shorts.
I completely forgot.
Anyway,
about that.
and I was like, that girl looks so familiar, and it's this actress Catherine Mary Stewart, and she plays the character Gwen Saunders in the movie. Well, anyway, that's not the point. The point is that Catherine Mary Stewart. I was like, why have I seen her? What is her face? And I looked, and she was in a movie. That was, and I'll tell you the year right now, and then this is what will blow it up. 1984, Night of the Comet. That is number one on my 80s movies you forgot about.
Now, this was part of there was this trend of these it was a kind of everybody trying to cash in on the Mad Max popularity, right?
Well,
isn't that Night of the Comet? They've all got
this is more
mohawks,
this
and
is
leather pants, and
zombie
post or apocalyptic kind of.
They hang out at the mall. This is almost more like Dawn of the Dead or Day of the Dead or whatever the one is from the mall.
Can't remember if I've seen it.
So 1984 again. She works at a movie theater.
Surprised that was overshadowed by A.T.
Weird, right?
Same year.
Yeah, I know. Like, why did everybody?
I just said A.T.
Why? That was the sequel, followed by P.T. and the prequel R.T. Anyway, but so I turned this on and I watched Night of the Comet, and I enjoyed it as like a trip back down to nostalgia. This reminded me of, when I was in like 5th grade, I think. But like, man, the effects and things were so bad. And it's funny that people are really concerned about in 1984. You know what I mean? Like, video games, like she's really concerned about getting her name on this, and then acid rain, nuclear war. It's just funny. So then I started
to remember all of that.
Well, I started thinking to myself, I said, okay, what are some other 80s movies that were fun to watch in the 80s, but that when people put lists up, right, nobody knows.
They don't make it on the...
Yeah. So I came up with a list of 20 movies from the 80s that you may... Now, when I did this, I went through this list with my wife, who, again, loves the 80s, and I named off every one, and she would be like... She'd seen most of them, but
thumbs up or thumbs down.
No, and she would go, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. And so I think it's a pretty good list.
You have to wait though for the list because we've got to get to the break here. But 20, 21?
20.
20?
Well, 19 now because Night of the Comet.
You burned one. 19 forgotten 80s movies. And we've got some coming in from listeners here as well. Stay tuned. We'll be back with more right after this.
My friend John Hansen at the Duct Hunter has constantly educated you about the need for ductwork cleaning in your home. But what about your cabin or summer home outside the valley? You need that home's ductwork cleaned too. With high pollen counts in the mountains, dust always in the wind, and road construction ever present, the old adage of out of sight, out of mind is bad. Give the Duct Hunter a call at 770-4813 to clean out those dirty ducts in your summer home.
We are the Duct Hunter. Breathe better, save money, protect your home. We are the Duct Hunter.
How was your drive to school?
Let me tell you, I had to get my iced coffee first. I just can't seem to put it down. My favorite rapper just announced a tour. My phone was buzzing like crazy. I'm so excited. I had to text all my friends right then to talk about it. Then, someone started calling me and...
Let's try that again.
I turned my phone off right away. I never drive distracted.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, and the Ad Council.
Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor. Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Visit managerbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
Welcome back to the For the People Movie Show here on KVNU Logan. A quick recap of what you can see. Again, bringing you some highlights of past movie shows. Andy and I are both out today for various reasons. The show's pre-recorded, but this is an official update of what you can see in theaters today. Strangely, The Boogeyman, based on Stephen King's scariest short story from his first short story collection, Night Shift, was made into a made-for-TV movie a long time ago. It was not worth really seeing. I think you can still find it out there. Made in the 70s. This one turned into a full-fledged, big-budget horror film. I have no idea if this holds up because they didn't screen it last night. I don't know if this is just Megaplex or theater chains in general doing away with the Thursday night actual premiere of films that has been a trend for several years now, or if it was just something to do with this movie, maybe a contractual thing. I have no idea. But The Boogeyman didn't open until its matinee screening this afternoon. So no idea if that's worth your time, but that is new in theaters. You can still see About My Father with Robert De Niro, from what I've read. Don't. The Little Mermaid, which Andy very much recommends, and which, again, is knocking it out of the park box office-wise. Disney hasn't really had good luck with these live-action remakes of their animated classics. This is proving to be the exception to the rule. Really a box office success so far, just a week in. Gerard Butler in Kandahar. The slogan on this one, the only thing more dangerous than the mission is the escape. So obviously a Gerard Butler action vehicle. A foreign film, not rated, which, take your warnings on that one. Not rated can mean a lot of things. But it looks to be kind of a comedy superhero kind of, I don't know, Japanese film called Shin Kamen Rider. Never heard of it until I saw it was in theaters today. You can read more about it at the Megaplex website. That is playing at the Providence Theater here in Logan as of today. And out at the University Theater, you can see much of these same movies, as well as playing only at the University Theater, Guardians of the Galaxy 3 and Fast X still there alongside The Little Mermaid, The Machine, and both Megaplex still playing Super Mario Brothers, the movie as well. So that's what you can get out and see this weekend, but there is plenty still to see on the streaming services premiering this weekend, and more on Netflix and Disney Plus as well. And then, of course, next Friday, a week from today, Transformers Rise of the Beasts, the big opener. We'll have a full review on that from Andy for next Friday's show. But that gives you a rundown of your options for this weekend if you want to get out and see any of those. I would highly recommend, if you haven't yet, Guardians of the Galaxy 3. Sadly, Dungeons & Dragons has officially left theaters. Ran a lot longer than I think even the filmmakers expected it to, deservedly. It's a great movie. It looks like that will be showing up on streaming services in less than a month, though. So if you didn't catch that in theaters, definitely do that. A long list of upcomings and premiering this weekend on various streaming services Andy supplied. I've posted to our Facebook page, and we'll try and talk about it all in a special 2-hour movie show recap, a best of, if you will, which continues right after these local headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 4:30. The news brought to you by Logan Extermination. The U.S. Senate averted a looming debt crisis yesterday, voting 63-36 to suspend the statutory $31.4 trillion debt ceiling limit until 2025. That late Thursday night vote gives the U.S. Treasury breathing room to borrow money to pay the federal government's bills, including monthly Social Security payments, Medicare expenses, and veterans benefits. Earlier in the day, Utah Senator Mitt Romney spoke with Northern Utah reporters via Zoom, explaining his support for the Fiscal Responsibility Act crafted by House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and President Joe Biden during budget negotiations last weekend. Romney acknowledged that it's not perfect. It does have flaws. He said there are lots of ways it could be better. But he said in a divided Congress that is part Democrat and part Republican, it's a compromise that is better than the alternatives. Those alternatives ranged from the federal government defaulting on its debts, a possibility which Romney branded an absolute catastrophe, to giving Biden a debt ceiling increase bill without demanding any concessions. 2 Idaho hospitals and their clinics are working to resume full operations after a cyber attack on their computer systems. Officials with the Idaho Falls Community Hospital say the attack happened Monday, causing the closure of some clinics and some ambulances to be diverted to other nearby hospitals. Mountain View Hospital was also affected. Officials say their IT team identified the attack quickly and acted to limit the impacts and keep all patient information safe and secure. Officials said Wednesday afternoon that work to fully recover from the attack was ongoing. Both hospitals remain open, and the vast majority of clinics are seeing patients as usual. A Utah-based bus company says the state of Nevada has declared war on its interstate travel services, seized one of its commercial vans, and falsely accused it of operating unsafe vehicles. Nevada transportation officials argue the Salt Lake Express is engaged in an illegal scheme to evade regulation of its bus lines within the state by making quick trips across the California border at stops with no customers during treks to Las Vegas. The conflict has landed in federal court in Reno. It involves routes stretching from Nevada's high desert into a California RV park in the mountains near Lake Tahoe and Death Valley, nearly 400 miles away. And Salt Lake police are investigating a critical injury crash that involved a motorcyclist that prompted a temporary closure of downtown Salt Lake's State Street. Officials from the Salt Lake PD say the investigation began shortly after 11:30 last night when a patrol sergeant driving south on State Street approached the 1700 South intersection and noticed a motorcycle on the ground in the roadway that was significantly damaged. The sergeant reportedly got out of his vehicle to provide emergency assistance and discovered that the motorcyclist had sustained critical injuries in the crash. KBNU News Time is 4:33.
With summer here, our beautiful lawns face a new threat. It's a threat you can't see because it's happening below the grass level, at the roots. Those nasty billbugs and grubs are beginning to hatch and they are hungry. Your lawn is a smorgasbord to them and they can't wait to belly up to the table. Get a jump on those bugs by calling Logan Extermination today. They'll apply a custom spray for bugs and also fertilize to keep weeds under control and your grass growing tall. Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
President Biden will address a nation this evening about his plan to sign a bill which averts a first-ever default.
Members of Congress from both parties came together to prevent a catastrophic default and demonstrated once more that America is a nation that pays its bills and meets its obligations.
White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre. A call to action for Congress and state legislatures on this National Gun Violence Awareness Day.
We just need leaders to step up and show some courage.
Vice President Kamala Harris telling an audience at a high school in Virginia that lawmakers don't have to choose between common sense legislation and supporting the Second Amendment. At least 207 people are dead and about 900 have been injured after a train derailed and crashed in Odisha, India. Churchill Downs will suspend racing operations for the season after this weekend after the death of a dozen racehorses. The rest of the races will be run at Ellis Park. Daria Albinger, ABC News.
One smile is great, but one smile in a community of smiles is so much better. Smile Train celebrates the cleft lip and palate community by empowering medical professionals in over 70 countries to perform essential cleft care in their local communities. Learn how Smile Train is helping the cleft lip and palate community at smiletrain.org/learn. Smile Train, changing the world one smile at a time.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. He sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself.
For many military veteran caregivers, their caregiving journey starts earlier in life and lasts longer. Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
KBNU weather at 4:36 for tonight. Partly cloudy skies, slight chance of showers and thunderstorms this evening. Partly cloudy after midnight, low in the upper 40s, and then sunny to partly cloudy and just a 20% chance of showers and storms in the afternoon Saturday, mid-70s for the high. 30% chance of mainly afternoon showers on Sunday, but some sunshine as well, and again, mid-70s. It's been to 68 today. It's 66 right now at KBNU. If warm summer nights make it hard for you to sleep, check out the copper-infused gel memory foam mattress at U&I. Always a better buy at U&I Furniture, downtown Logan, 28 West, 1st North. KBNU News Time is 4:37. Let's check Wall Street now with Edward Jones.
This is Ted Karen with Edward Jones Investments in Smithfield, bringing you the daily financial market report for Friday, June 2nd. Stock markets were sharply higher on Friday as investors welcomed the continued progress on the U.S. debt ceiling deal and a jobs report that painted a resilient U.S. labor market. Oil was up on Friday nearly $2 to $72 a barrel. Gold was down $30 to $1,965 an ounce. The NASDAQ was up 139 points, just over 1%. The S&P 500 was up 61 points, nearly 1.5%, and the Dow was up 700 points, over 2%. For the week, the S&P 500 is up over 1.5%, with leadership coming from across sectors, including consumer discretionary, materials, and industrials. Small cap stocks also rebounded, up over 3% on the week. So far this year, S&P 500 returns are a surprising 11%, while the technology-heavy NASDAQ is up over 26%. Meanwhile, Treasury yields continue to climb higher as well, with the 2-year yield up to around 4.5%. This comes as markets continue to price in one additional rate hike by the Federal Reserve in the July meeting. In our view, the Fed will likely remain on hold at the June 14th meeting and rely on incoming data to determine the direction of future interest rates. This has been today's Financial Market Report, brought to you by Ted Karen with Edward Jones, member SIPC, serving individual investors with personalized attention and financial advice. If you'd like additional information, please visit with any of the 9 Edward Jones advisors in Cache Valley, in Providence, Logan, and Smithfield.
Finally, winter is in our rearview mirror. But before you break out the barbecue and invite the neighbors over, you should consider pruning your trees and shrubs. Whoop, hang on. Don't do it yourself. Leave it to the pros at Hull Tree Care. Their certified arborist and experienced team will prune, trim, and get your yard looking its best. Yep, overgrown trees are a hazard. Having Hull Tree Care prune them doesn't just look better, your trees will feel better too. When you call, ask for the radio discount. HULL Tree Care. Call 760-6587.
Hey, so what's a great way to spread awareness that driving high is illegal everywhere? A catchy song, of course.
You can run, but you can't drive high. You can run, but you can't drive high.
Friendly reminder, don't drive high. If you feel different, you drive different. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
And you can dance for inspiration.
Welcome back to the For the People movie show. Disney's Little Mermaid, The Machine, several other films here in Cache Valley. Basically, unless you want to see Guardians of the Galaxy for the first time or again, or Dungeons and Dragons, or Disney's Little Mermaid, there's not a lot for you. So we're talking forgotten.
We're taking a trip
80s,
back.
forgotten 80s movies you may want to see or find, and a lot of them. I googled the two that I only brought two. You brought 20, but I googled my two, and they are. You can actually find them on both of them are on Amazon Prime, free to Prime members. So
you want to know what's my?
So you burned one. What was that again? That was the
Night of the Comet, 1984. I can't remember. It's on one of the streaming services. If you have Xfinity, just say into your remote, Night of the Comet.
and we should clarify, we're not necessarily saying these are good.
No, they're just,
like, you're not going to watch many of these and go, wow, some fine cinema.
Wow.
But
why did that not win an Oscar?
They're fun. They're nostalgic. They're very, very 80s.
You know what? The key word here,
80s.
Key word here is nostalgia. And again, they get left out of discussion, when we talk about very 80s movies. So here's my second one. American Anthem. Do you remember this movie?
No.
It was about, it was a gymnastics movie. It started Mitch Gaylord. He played this guy, Steve Taveri. Had Janet Jones, who's now the wife of hockey great Wayne Gretzky. She played this Julie Lloyd. Yeah, they basically are in this like kind of elite gymnast school.
Really?
And he's like the bad boy gymnast.
I do not remember
He
this.
did like a really cool routine and like broke some guy's leg, and then he doesn't want to get back on the bars.
This was such an 80s thing. Remember, there was the breakdancing movie trend. Breakin',
Electric
2,
Boogaloo.
Electric Boogaloo, and then there was the freestyle BMX bike trend. They're like movies. Remember Rad?
Hey.
That was the name of the movie, Rad. But I forgot gymnastics. That followed Karate Kid.
Well, and
it was karate,
but also
then it was gymnastics.
Remember too, this is 1986. So in '84, remember that was the men's gymnasts. In Los Angeles, in America.
Well, and Kathy, what's her face, was on the Wheaties box.
Yeah. You're right.
I can't remember her name.
Dorothy Hamill. I'm just kidding.
She was
Somebody's
short.
like, that's not funny. That's an ice skater. Whatever. Pele.
One of those sports.
The little quip for it says, a talented yet jaded gymnast meets a new girl at his old gym, and they gradually begin to fall in love as they train hard for the nationals. It has like every 80s trope. Like there's this one scene where him and his dad get in a fight, and he gets into his truck, but it's like one of the ones that's like it was probably had a lid in the back,
roll bar,
a roll bar with the lights, and he drives off into the woods in his cowboy boots and jeans and buckle and tank top, and there just happens to be a bar between two pine trees, and he's like, you know what? Here I go. Anyway, I loved that movie. Loved it. And also probably because I had a small crush on Janet Jones.
I'm going to have to go find that one. I've never heard of it.
Just Google the post. I mean, if I just showed you that. I'm going to show you this from across the way. Just that's the poster. I mean, that's about the most.
That's an 80s.
The problem is
That's like you had the idea for the poster and then came up with the movie. That's what that poster means.
If you saw this, this actually, I want you to put this side by side Fatal Attraction. I wonder how many parents went home with Fatal Attraction instead of American Anthem. You know what? Because they literally look the same.
Look up now this isn't a forgotten 80s movie. Look up St. Elmo's Fire.
Yeah.
Because I think that is the same movie poster.
Yeah. No, it was the same, like they had a little thing going.
That's funny.
That's my second movie. You and I have talked about this third one, but we don't give it enough props. You know, in a time where it was like Star Wars and everything, the creature feature, you know, kind of became and nobody had ever done a movie, right?
Yeah,
about a giant alligator. So 1980, Alligator. Remember this?
Yeah,
Robert Forster. Remember the beginning? They flushed the alligator down the toilet.
I was going to say, there were two. There was one where they're in the sewers of a city.
That's this one.
Okay, and then there's the one on the ocean.
No,
that's Crocodile.
That's
or something.
There are a lot.
Yeah, they were basically a year apart because I watched them both on the same night.
But this comes into, you know, in the late 70s, beginning of the 80s, you had not only was the big blockbuster becoming a thing, but you had Jaws.
Yeah,
you had Piranha. You had, you know, just
this actually segs into one of my two movies.
Yeah.
Well, I have four technically, but the two that were first on the list, because the other two I've thought of today, so I'm cheating. But the two that immediately made it on the list, one of them was Chud.
Oh yeah,
cannibalistic humanoid underground dwellers. It's become a cult.
It had one of the most iconic posters with the guy coming out of the toilet,
and just horrible special effects, like literally rubber suits with zippers showing. But it was similar to Alligator, where there was this trend of like something gets into the sewers of New York and it grows and then it comes back up.
Yep.
And yeah.
And Alligator,
that was a thing in the 80s for some reason.
I just remember a couple times as a kid, because this is 1980, so I was like 6 years old. I don't know why my parents let me watch this. It was rated R. And I just always remember thinking that there was an alligator that was going to come out of the toilet when I was sitting there.
Rated R meant a different thing, though, in the 80s. Because a lot of times I think rated R, for parents meant, there's probably some gore, some horror movie style gore, and my kid can handle that. So
I did. So here's a funny. I did this as
then Scarface came along, and they're like, okay, so rated R means something different now.
I did.
That was gruesome.
Well, so I did when I was doing my master's on the PG-13 rating and that whole thing. I compared R-rated movies prior to the PG-13 and after. And what I found in most cases was when a movie was rated R, prior to 1984, the movies could sometimes they could have been found in the PG-13 category if they were re-rated, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that has actually happened.
Sometimes they requested that, right?
Well, after the rating came out, yeah. But prior to 1984, when we're talking about like Alligator, right?
Yeah.
And then sometimes, most often, I would say probably 70% of the time the movie still fit the rating.
Yeah.
And it was usually, honestly, this is funny, Jason, it was never really because of nudity or sexuality or things like that. It was almost always because of language.
Yeah. It was
anyway,
and a specific word particularly.
Yeah, I think everybody knows
which
that
is
one.
Kind of interesting to think that one word could lead.
Speaking of a movie that could have been potentially rated R, but wasn't. Do you remember the 80s movie Just One of the Guys, 1985?
I do, actually.
About a year. So this is a year after PG-13.
I do, actually.
This was PG-13, but boy, howdy, but they pushed the gas on this.
Now this is actually getting some play right now, and I don't know why. I don't know if it's tied to certain things now or what. But
Just One of the Guys.
Yeah, it was on. I forget which. It was one of the cable networks. Because I do the same thing you do. Sometimes just out of curiosity. I don't watch them usually, but I'll go in and look to see. Okay, what movies are they rehashing every few hours?
You know why? Probably
these days.
Was because there was two people in this movie that ended up there's two people in this show that ended up Williams. Why can't I think of his name? Let me look it up really quick because I'm going to get the last name wrong.
Well, you're doing that.
William Zabka That nobody knows that name, but that's Johnny from Karate Kid. And guess what?
Okay.
He played a jerk in this movie too.
Did he ever not play? I mean, other than the Karate Kid sequel on Netflix, did he play a good guy in any movie prior to that?
No, probably not.
Spoiler alert for everyone who hasn't watched that on Netflix. Sorry, my bad.
No.
He's the good guy.
This is the same plot as like She's the Man, and I can't remember what Shakespeare played.
Yeah.
It's based on, is it Twelfth Night? I think it is. Where
I'm sorry, She's the Man that I recently saw on.
But it's the same plot as
TBS or
it's the
something.
same plot as just one of the guys.
Yeah.
But in this, instead of being a soccer player, she's a journalist. She wants to be a journalist. So, and it's just not fair. But
So my second, I'll only do my two since you got a long list. The second one that made it on my list originally, the ones that I added as the show's played out here, The Burbs and Desperately Seeking Susan, because I have good memories.
Those are good ones.
Both of those movies came out at really, really great times in my life, in middle school age, and they're associated with those times. So
can I guess the year and see if how accurate my barometer is?
I don't really know.
I'm going to bet that Desperately Seeking Susan is 1986.
Let's see.
We're going to see if Andy's time barometer is right.
1985, but late 1985. It was a Christmas movie.
So it was almost 1986.
Almost 1986.
And then I'm going to bet that you said Chud.
Chud was.
I think Chud is 83.
Chud was. I think you're actually right about that, but I'm not sure. Well, it's coming. It's coming. 84. One year off.
Look at me.
And this is my last one that was originally on my list. And the reason I want to really throw this one out is because you'll like the references, because it's a Richard Donner film. It stars Matthew Broderick, Rutger Hauer, and Michelle Pfeiffer.
I know what this is.
No, but if you said, were Rutger Hauer and Michelle Pfeiffer ever in a movie together, we'd be like, no, never. Yes, they were. Lady Hawk, 1985.
Lady Hawk.
Also one of the first PG-13 movies.
Have you ever...
I think it was like the third movie to be rated PG-13.
Have you ever heard of the
movie? So there's my list. That's entirely what I have on it.
This isn't on my list, but have you heard of the movie? It's an 80s movie with Rutger Hauer and Jennifer's Jason Leigh called, I think it's Flesh and Blood, set in medieval times, like during the Black Plague. You should Google that. That was Game of Thrones before there was Game of Thrones.
That's kind of. Do you want to just run through the rest of your list?
Yeah.
I realize we're not going to have time to.
No, you're good.
Flesh it out.
I'm just going to say each of these.
Forgotten 80s movies you should not forget.
So I'll say these in like a little blurb, like a tiny 5-second blurb. Cloak and Dagger, Henry Thomas, and Dabney Coleman. Lucas, do you remember Lucas?
Yeah.
With Charlie Sheen, and
it was actually pretty good.
It was one of the Coreys, Corey Haim, I think.
Yeah, and it holds up.
It was sad. It was kind of a sad movie. Then there's Top Secret with Val Kilmer. Before there was The Naked Gun and all those movies you had. Remember that?
That was so. Top Secret was kind of trying to steal the Mel Brooks thing.
Well, it was
or the Airplane.
Well, it was
not Mel
from the
Brooks.
guys that did Airplane. All those movies back then they were either producer or writer. They all came together, but that one is hilarious.
Yeah, I think Airplane, Naked Gun, those movies. That was Top Secret.
There's a scene in that movie where
Val Kilmer, right?
Where this little tiny horse they're going down this road and the horse is like singing. And then of course right after that the guy goes, "Don't mind him, he's just a little horse." I was like, "Aw." Anyway, I love that movie.
That's actually pretty fun.
Here's another one, DC Cab. Remember this? It was Mr. T. It's about a cab company in Washington, D.C. that was like the worst cab company, and they are like, trying to... I think it had Irene Cara in it, who actually sang the song for Flashdance, but she actually acted in it.
Oh, okay.
Anyhow, I remember that one. Another comedy, Amazon Women on the Moon.
Yeah.
John Landis.
I've
hilarious.
seen that.
It has
Actually,
Arsenio Hall.
And not done... It's done as a comedy. It wasn't. They weren't trying to make it.
It was like they were.
Comedy.
It's like somebody flipping the channels.
That's why it worked.
It's just tiny little. It's almost like Robot Chicken without the toys.
That's good.
Summer School with Mark Harmon.
Yeah,
you remember that? That movie is. That actually still. I mean, it's corny, but that's very 80s.
Oh, it's good.
Seems Like Old Times with Chevy Chase and Goldie Hawn. Do you remember that?
that is a really forgotten movie that shouldn't be because it's really funny.
Remember, he's an ex-con, and he ends up staying in her house, and she's remarried, and it's a guy running for governor.
Yeah.
It's played by Charles Grodin, I believe.
There's another one with Chevy Chase around the same time that everybody forgot where he becomes radioactive.
Yeah, I
don't remember what that's called.
Modern Problems.
Yeah. Also very funny. I mean, stupid, but funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry.
After Seems Like Old Times, I have The Legend of Billie Jean. Do you remember this? This had another iconic song that went with it, the Pat Benatar song. I cannot think of what it's called, but anyway, you can find that for me.
Oh, okay. No, I do. Okay,
Had,
I do remember
Helen
that
Slater.
Yeah,
who had come on the scene when she played Supergirl.
I do remember that.
Yeah, I think it has Christian Slater. Yeah, both Helen Slater and her brother Christian Slater were in this movie. Anyway,
how many more on your list? Should we go to the break, or do you want to?
I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
We'll finish this. We'll finish this on the other side. Andy's list of forgotten 80s movies continues right after this here on the For the People Movie Show.
Your 401k is likely one of your most important assets, but it's only one part of a comprehensive retirement strategy. Edward Jones can help you understand how your retirement assets fit into your entire retirement picture, so you work toward your unique retirement goals. Contact one of the 7 offices of Edward Jones in Cache Valley, or go to edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, making sense of investing. Member SIPC.
Join us each week for Music in the Spoken Word featuring the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square, the longest-running continuous weekly network broadcasting the world. Each episode features modern and traditional arrangements of spiritual, classical, and contemporary music and a timely, inspiring message. Truly an uplifting program that will have you returning each week. Music and the Spoken Word with the Tabernacle Choir.
Sunday mornings at 8 and again in the afternoons at 6 on News Talk KVNU.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends, look closer. Right in your community, there are youth who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So, look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. Covenant House is the national leader providing safe housing for youth, 50 years strong. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. Every youth who walks into Covenant House gets clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So, look closer at Covenant House and help us fight youth homelessness. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
We are there in your community. Small business owners, mechanics, police officers, homemakers. And we are there serving our nation in the Air Force Reserve. When medical emergencies arise, we meet the challenge. In cybersecurity, protecting and defending in cyberspace. When natural disasters happen, we are there in space. As a strong part of the nation's defense, we are there in the community and we are there for our nation. We share a vision to make a difference, united and focused, taking pride in being there in service of our country. We are Reserve Citizen Airmen, and we are there with over 180 different jobs to serve your country. Air Force Reserve.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it twice a day.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it in the morning and before dinner.
I get it, slip it, cuff it, check it, and share it with my doctor. Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor.
Now that I know my blood pressure numbers, I talked with my doctor. We're getting those numbers down.
Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. self-monitoring is power. Learn more at manageyourbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
That's it for hour one of today's show, but I hope you'll stay tuned. It's a special 2-hour movie show, meaning, yes, more of Andy Morgan and the For the People movie show coming up right after this. Again, new in theaters here in Logan this weekend. You can get out and see both The Boogeyman, which is a Stephen King short story turned into a horror film. Also new Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, a sequel to the popular animated Marvel movie from a couple of years ago. That's also new in theaters here in Logan. So revisiting some of the highlights of past movie shows, looking ahead at summer movie season and more, continues into hour two of today's For the People movie show with Andy Morgan. Right after this, here on KVNU Logan.
KVNU, Logan.